Hello, everybody, and welcome to our question and answer. This is the third one on Patreon. We got some good questions today, so I think we'll just get started. Well, what you all doing well?
Hello, everyone.
We have a question from Joseph. He said, some people in his surroundings say they've had experiences, out-of-body experiences, and they saw their own body from above. Some saw the silver cord, some did not. How is it possible that someone can go out of their body and don't see the silver cord, and somebody else could see the silver cord? Well, I would say there's three ways, really. One is, it is possible somebody went out of their body and noticed the silver cord. It's also possible somebody went out of their body and did not notice the silver cord. Now, just think about this. This is just what any visualization. Sometimes Daskalos would give us an object and we'd look at an object, or he'd tell us to pick up an object and look at it and close your eyes and then try to recall every detail of it. And those of you who do this practice, and I strongly urge you to do it because it's very important to develop the skill of visualization, which is one of the most important skills we can develop at this point in our path in the Researchers of Truth. But you would only notice the things that caught your attention. You know, you open your eyes and say, oh, I didn't notice that over there, but now I see it. So in the same way, it's possible for someone to go out of their body and not notice that. Also, it's possible for somebody to not go out of their body, but imagine they went out of their body. Now, this is something Daskalos would say it's a real obstacle for the researcher of truth, and it happens all the time to the researchers of truth because they've been trained on how to visualize. And whether you're a good visualizer or not, whatever you see is stored in your subconsciousness, imprinted as an elemental, perfect, accurate. So one day, this guy, and the guy was a good researcher, came to Daskalos and he was so excited. He said, Daskale, I went out of my body. I went to London. I could see everything. And Daskalos said, really? Yes. And he said, when were you the last time were you in London? Oh, 5 years ago. And so Daskalos said, well, what did you notice different in London this time from your out-of-body experience? And the guy didn't know what to say because he didn't notice anything different, which means he was just doing this is what Daskalos said, a good visualization inside of his own elemental. He was just seeing his elemental in great detail. So then Daskalos says, well, why don't you go to Paris? He said, well, I've never been to Paris. How can I do that? So the guy was just thinking he was out of his body, but he was just inside an elemental. Now, an elemental, when you do this at the level he was doing it, it's very detailed. You're there. I mean, it's there. So you feel like you're in it, and it's very similar, but it's a common obstacle on the path that we mistake our own elementals or things we've seen as a true visualization. So that's something to watch for.
Until we reach self-realization, it's a little discouragement, but most of the OBE is held in our psychoanalytical shell. So answering to this question, so some people see the silver cord, some people don't see the silver cord or sometime, which means like people who are visualizing ourselves out of body experience, like connecting with silver cord, most likely see the silver cord. But the people don't have the image of that, don't see the silver cord. But it depends on the condition. But what we can say now here is until we reach the self-realization, most likely our OB experience is held in our psychoanalytical shell.
Yeah, and we're talking about the silver cord, but maybe we should define what the silver cord is. It's an etheric connection between the bodies. And there's actually one silver cord, but 3 parts to it. The first part attaches to the solar plexus of our material body, the etheric double of our solar plexus, material body. The second one attaches to the etheric double of the heart of the psychical body, heart center of the psychical body. And the third attaches at the etheric double of the mental body or the noetical body. So what happens is this is where the connection comes to our I-ness, to our real self. And it's also where the pulse of life comes in to our body as well. It comes in at the heart too. It comes in all 3, but nonetheless, it's what keeps the body alive. It helps keep the body alive. Now, what happens when you die? The material body dies. Well, that cord is immediately cut by Raphael because it's etheric, so it's under his domain. It's immediately cut by Raphael, and Michael escorts the personality, your self-awareness, whatever state it's in, to the plane in the psychical worlds that you are most in harmony with. So what happens to that cord? Well, it gets cut, so it's done its work. It doesn't have any more work to do, so it goes back to the noetic. Same thing with the psychical body. When you have the second death, the psychical body dissolves. You go back. I mean, the cord gets cut and goes back to the noetic state. And same with the mental body between incarnations. So that's just a little something about it. Now, the next question is from Manuel, and it looks like it's for you. So why don't you answer it, Aki?
It's okay. Please read
he's asking about your meditation.
Okay. Please read it then.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Aki, for your warmth.
This question is fine, probably. Question part.
As you mentioned at the end of your meditation, a certain structure of light elementals around my physical body so that I can make this structure softer or more solid using breathing. In previous spiritual works and meditation, in other methods, such as martial art, I had to use the willpower to close my energy. So my question is this: does the use of willpower, center, and closing of energy apply to this meditation of the light body, or is it just creating elementals around with intention to program them to protect us?
Please answer first.
Well, he's asking you about your meditation.
It's okay. Please. I will follow after your answer.
Well, of course, we're creating elementals around our body. It's a light shield. We're creating an elemental, whether it's a 5-pointed star, a 6-pointed star, oval of light. That's an elemental we are energizing. And with intention, we do program it. We do program it to protect ourselves, or to, for an example, the shield of light one, we program it so that the the negative elementals sent to us, they don't bounce back to the person off of this oval of light. We don't want that. I mean, that's normally they would if we didn't program that elemental of the shield of light to dissolve it immediately, and it just drops. And then a blessing goes back. We'll always send a blessing back. Pray for those who abuse you. Pray for those and bless those who harm you. You know, this is Christ's teaching. So that's what we do. We imprint that elemental on the etheric elemental.
Okay. From my side, it says, this question says, I don't know much about the aura closing things, but I presume it's kind of same kind of exercise. But he said he used willpower to create the closing, aura closing things. And in this our exercise, he mentions we use intention. So back to this subject, whatever we create in the exercise, in our teaching system, we put affirmation at the end of the exercise, or we program what we created. So, which means we use willpower to program it, to give the meaning or aim to the elemental which we created. So, in this sense, what he called willpower has many levels. like a divine level, to our own personality levels. So intention, what he calls intention, is included in willpower in many levels. So we use this willpower in many levels according to the development of our self-consciousness or concentration. We program the elemental which we create. So it's the same thing. Using in the center of the willpower or intention. Anyway, we use willpower after visualizing something.
Is it possible to gain power from the etheric double doing walking meditation, breathing in and out consciously? This would give more value to my 30 minutes walks I take every day. Yes, of course. Anything we do more consciously makes it more powerful, makes it more effective. Just imagine if you're eating food, just eat very consciously and you'll feel you can gain the nourishment of the etheric vitality much easier. Conscious breathing, everything we do more consciously definitely brings in more energy. Now, the point of this walking meditation, of course, the Buddhists are very big on walking meditation, but when he says walking meditation here, it's walking meditation with conscious recall. So not only are we getting benefit by slowing down and getting more in harmony with ourselves and nature by walking super consciously, very consciously, we're also doing something else. We're remembering, we want to note what we're seeing, hearing, feeling on this walk, so that when we come back and we sit back down, then we go into a short little meditation and just try to bring back to memory all those things you saw, felt, and heard. This is training us in visualization. So there's an added benefit there.
Yes. My answer is yes. Please continue walking meditation in 30 minutes. It's very good to accumulate aesthetic vitality in our body. I have a small tips when you do so. Whatever, even walking or yoga or jogging, whatever you do, simple exercise, please get rid of all daily emotions and thought which we are practicing in Mediverse and Patreon. Please try to get rid of all emotion and thought, and try to concentrate on what you're doing, the action which you are doing. Then it creates a lot of power to absorb and accumulate aesthetic vitality in the environment. This is very important. If you are thinking many other things or attracted by, it's good to enjoy the scenery, listening the sound of the birds. It's so beautiful. But if you really want to absorb aesthetic vitality, then please walk consciously. Keep walking consciously, getting rid of all thoughts and emotions. Then energy really enter into your body and accumulate. That's why people who do yoga or martial art or any exercise, they are full of aesthetic vitality, right? This means they are more focusing on what they are doing during their exercise without thinking or without feeling something. So please try to focus on and concentrate on what you are doing. If you walk, please focus on the motion or action of your walking. Then it works a lot.
This next question, how can I make some kind of contact with someone who has passed over? Well, there's a great range here. So let's start at the top. An invisible helper who works on the inner planes can easily go into the psychical plane to the shell of somebody, because remember, they're inside their own shell, and they can enter that shell very easily and just know everything that's going on with that person, all their psychological state, let's call that. But who can do that? Only advanced masters who know the way can do that. So for the common person, we're not able to just do that. Now they do it by how can they find them? How can they find people like that? Well, everybody has its own unique vibration, its own tonality, its tone, which is a vibrational rate, which becomes, once they pass over, their psychonoetical address. So a mystic who can tune into that can follow that and go to their address, just like someone in this world can come to our address wherever we are located in the physical world. But for a common person, of course, they don't know that. But it really depends upon, for a common person, if there was a real love connection between the people. If you didn't love them, it's pretty hard to make contact. But if you love them and they loved you, that bond stays. It doesn't ever get broken. When you pass over, it'll be there. It's there when they pass over. Both pass over, it's there. And it's through that bond of love, through that connection of love to the other person, that we can send messages to them. Now, they may not know that you're on the other side and you're sending the message. You might just appear in their shell saying the thing to them because they've created an identical of you, an elemental that's just identical to you. And they will interact with that. But it's a connection. It's connected to you too. So the most important thing, if you want to try to make contact, is just simply remember the person. Remember the love you felt for them. Remember the love they felt for you. Close your eyes and try to enter into that vibration, and then tell them what you want to tell them.
Creating a white light, a pure white light, especially the people who passed on, we create a white light and do what Daniel says. Then even though we can't experience it or can see it clearly, but it reaches to the other side and they can feel and see it, what you are doing.
We have a question that says, what should a person do if they are treated quite badly for many years by their partner? I've heard this question before. It's up to the person. Is it up to the person to stay with them and keep trying to show them another way over and over again? Or may they also leave that person? For example, if a husband is abusing the wife, must that wife stay with the husband because a researcher of truth promises to love and serve everyone, no matter what their behavior is toward them? Did Daskalos ever raise this sort of topic? May the wife leave, but try to keep love in their heart for the man and not hostility. I'm sorry for the unpleasant question, but I would deeply appreciate your opinion on this topic. The promise is to love and serve from the depths of your heart and soul. It does not promise you will always have to stay with them physically, but you always should love them. That's just, no matter what happens in relationships, it should end with love, and they carry on with love. Daskalos, Daskalos was so, he told you answers to things by telling you stories. So I'll tell you the story that he told about this topic. And it's a true story. There were people in his neighborhood. He lived in a little quarter of Nicosia, a suburb of Strovolos. It's a little tiny quarter, and people's houses are very close together and everything. And there was one family in the neighborhood that nobody liked. They were always causing trouble, complaining, blaming neighbors. All the time they were doing just troublemakers, which you would call them. Very disagreeable people. And also Daskalos, he knew what was going on in every household around his neighborhood, as far any household he wanted to, but for sure in his neighborhood. And it came to his attention one time that these people were really needed money. They were in trouble and they didn't have enough money to pay the bills and all that kind of thing. So one night he anonymously put money in an envelope, went over and slipped it under their door. Goes on for a while. Next thing you know, there at his door with the police. And the family, the couple, had accused him of stealing something from their house. And so, of course, I said, no, I didn't steal anything. In fact, I gave you money on this date in an envelope, and it was this much money. And the people were like, and the police said, and so they left. But the people stayed, and they said, oh, we're so sorry. We're so sorry. Now, they had caused a lot of trouble, and they had accused him of things before, I believe. And so it wasn't really a good harmony. You know, there was not the right thing. So they're sitting there, oh, sorry. Oh, we love you. Can we come to your lessons? And he said to them, this is interesting. He said, I love you too, but it's better you not come around. And so he did not allow them to come and visit him because they were troublemakers, and they just would keep causing trouble with the circle. So we have the right to say, you know, we may say it this way: our love is unconditional, but our desire to stay around people maybe isn't unconditional. But our love has to be unconditional. We always have to love, no matter what they've done to it. And, you know, when people came to Christ and complained about other people, he had nothing to say but forgive them. And that's the reason. The reason was he did not see the wrongdoers the way the complainer did. So all he could tell the complainer was to forgive them. It didn't mean you have to be abused by him. This is not a teaching of love everybody and serve everybody. It's not a teaching that we should be a doormat to anybody. So keep that in mind.
Yes, the research of truth. We have a promise, number 5, to love and serve fellow human beings sincerely from the depths of my heart and soul, no matter what their behavior may be towards me. Yes, we have to manifest it one by one, even with a close relationship. But it doesn't mean we should not. It doesn't mean we can't protect anything from a relationship. We should protect ourselves, and we should keep proper distance physically, psychically, and noetically. So we have to protect ourselves, and also we should not get trapped in playing a role of victim or being masochistic. So, which means don't get caught of playing a role of being victims. So always we have to try to love as best as we can, but it doesn't mean we can't separate physically. If we need it, it's okay. Take the proper distance. Just like every planet has a proper distance, harmoniously. So we will know which distance is the appropriate in that relationship. We will know it. And the close relationship, usually when each person finishes to learn. In the relationship, we learn each other. But when we finish learning each other, then the universe gives us the time to separate, to create a proper distance each other. But until then, do your best, always loving your partner, whoever, and we will know the proper distance eventually.
Next question says, last night I just happened to be reading about the ancient Hibernian mystery schools, or the Irish mystery school, and they had been worshiping Christ since before the time of the flood. In other words, before Christ came in the flesh. And when the powerful deeds of Joshua occurred in physicality, they could see them spiritually from their place in Ireland. It makes me wonder about these people, who they were and why, since they loved Christ so much, were they not physically present with him? What can it mean when people love each other so much but are not able to be physically together? Is it a test? An opportunity to grow inward? Did Dasklos ever speak of these people and such things? The Hibernian mystery schools were just like in the Greek mystery schools, the Egyptian mystery schools, the Mexican mystery schools. They were schools of initiation that trained people to go into higher dimensions. In other words, have deep inward contact with things. In this case, Christ. Actually, they all talked, and they didn't use the word Christian, they didn't use the word Christ, but they were attempting to touch the same thing, to contact the same thing. So now some say that school, the Hibernian mystery school, was a remnant of Atlantis. It was really an Atlantean mystery school that survived the sinking of Atlantis. I don't know if that's true or not. Dasklos never talked about these people. But what I can say is that for sure, all these schools are trying to connect us to what? The truth, the reality. Whether you call that reality Allah, God, whatever. It doesn't matter what you call it. Everybody's trying to connect to that. These are all like rays off of one sun. Say God's the sun, there's all these rays. Some people are traveling up this way, some people are traveling up this way, but they're all reaching toward the same goal. And just as when people came to America, they were looking for the new world, right? So all these sailors, voyages of discovery went off and they found America. And they went back to England and they drew maps. None of those maps matched each other. And the reason they didn't match each other, because people noticed different things. It's like what I was talking about before. So even though they all were looking for this at the same reality, none of them's interpretation or expression or representation of it was exactly the same. And that's just natural, actually. So the same with these mystery schools. They talk about different things, but they're all trying to reach this one thing, God. Now, she mentioned before the flood. So this is long before Christ came on earth. And we have to think about what this really means. Joshua, or Jesus, was the personality. Christ is a pure ray of God, and Jesus was the personality that represented it at that particular time and place. So in other words, it's a short-term, temporary expression of the Christ. But Christ itself is a principle. It didn't just show up one time and it wasn't there before. It's always been here with us. And this is why St. Thomas Aquinas, I think, 1200 AD, he said, and I'll try to recall this perfectly, the identical thing we call Christian existed from the beginning of man coming on the planet and has not been lacking. After Christ came in the flesh, it began to be called Christianity. So what the researchers of truth are talking about, and what really all sincere mystery and spiritual schools are talking about, and even the religions, although they got covered over, are talking about the perennial teachings, the eternal truth concerning God, man, and the nature of reality. Yeah, see, did I miss anything? Oh, well, yeah, I did. What can it mean when people love each other but not able to be physically together? Well, sometimes it's a test, sure, and sometimes it's an opportunity. A test is an opportunity, really, to grow inwardly. But it's also, everyone's got their own role to play. So it's not necessary that every human being on the planet was at Christ's feet. It was necessary for the disciples and some of his followers to be there, and then they spread it out. It's the same way with Dasklos. Dasklos was here, he drew very little worldly attention until the end. And not many people saw him physically. But those who did are taking what they saw and found and learned out to the others who didn't have that opportunity. Yeah, go ahead.
From the higher level, everything is coordinated and designed under the divine plan perfectly. So from our personality's viewpoint, sometimes we can't get or we can't get image or can't understand or why it's separated. But from the divine viewpoint, it's totally coordinated and perfectly done. Just like Buddha, 500 years before, already, he told his disciple about the Christ is coming. So like that way, from the higher perspective, it's all connected and harmonized.
Okay, this is a question regarding the lesson on the composition of our personality on Patreon. I understand you saying that if I watch the war between good and bad elementals from the vantage point of my true self, I will surely win the war. But if I watch from my personality, I will pay a lot. Does this mean that if I feel I'm not winning the war, I'm looking for my personality? Or is there any other way of knowing from where we are looking? How can I learn to look from the true self? Well, I'll answer that part first, because you cannot learn to look from your true self until you can identify what's not the true self. This is what introspection is about. We're trying to separate that idea we think we are from what we really are. And when you can start doing that and you realize, oh, boy, I spoke from my lower self, my personality self. And sometimes you'll feel, wow, I feel like my inner self when I spoke or when I thought. So we have to do introspection. We have to, not just at night, 10 minutes, but all the time. When you're talking with people, particularly, pay attention to what in you is talking. And the common thing is, if you're struggling and you're fighting back and forth, definitely you're working from the personality. You're working in the pairs of opposites, pole. And sometimes the shadow wins, sometimes the light, the good part of you wins, and sometimes the negative elemental wins. And a lot of times it's just a big war, and it's hurting you, of course. But so we have to stop that war and shift our attention out of our identification, out of that lower self, which has its rights. This is right. This, I believe this person did me wrong, and this thing's right. Get out of that. We can't look at life that way and be happy. We can't look at that life that way and gain self-realization. We have to shift our identity from that of our personality self into our inner self. And by doing that, we learn two things. We learn what the Buddhists call the false self. They call it false because it's temporary. It only lasts for a certain part of time. So we'll see the difference between that and its expressions and the expressions of the true inner self, which never feels like it's losing anything. It's totally okay. It just knows that this war is a process by which we discover what's not our real self. In other words, we start to purify our personality. We take out of those things like fear, jealousies, insecurities. Oh, those are big ones. And anxieties. There's so much anxiety going on in the world today. So we take that out, and it's not like we destroy the personality. We redeem it. It gets refined, so it can be redeemed by the inner self. As long as we got all this fear, jealousies, anxieties in us, it's vibrating in a way that it can't assimilate with the inner self. And even on a short scale, just in our daily life, if we got those vibrations going on, we're not going to feel like the inner self. We're going to feel like the outer self with all its preferences, let's just say. So that part. Then the other part is, if you feel like you're not winning, it means you're not looking at it from the inner self. So the most important thing is just try to bring down that war. If you have feelings against other people, you feel they're not doing you right, bring that down. Disenergize. We have to stop focusing on all these things that bother us. This causes so much things. When we start comparing things, oh, this is right, this is wrong, it causes trouble. But the inner self is happy. It's always set. It's always perfectly at peace. So when you feel that way, then know you're approaching the inner self.
Always love and peace and calmness. So we are living in a world of existence and doing many actions using our three bodies. But usually the war or fighting condition is rough. It's lots of movement. But from the perspective of inner self, is a true self, inner self, true self is always calm and stillness. So once we can start to see all goodness, positiveness, negative, all positive, negative, good, bad, whatever, from the viewpoint of the calmness, stillness, happy, so fulfilled. If we can view everything from this state, it's a pretty much viewpoint of our inner self. And what we are doing and our introspection exercise. We have so many introspection meditations in this teaching system. Is we try to get this viewpoint, acquire, master this viewpoint through our daily actions. So please try introspection exercise. Then slowly, and steadily, we can acquire this viewpoint. So introspection is not the reflection. Reflection is not like blaming our behavior or emotion. That's gonna create a more world inside. Of course, toward the other people. Don't blame or accuse or anything. And even we don't do that for ourselves. We just watch calmly, observe everything from the viewpoint of the stillness.
Yes, that's the correct way. Absolutely. Next question is it possible to have a demonstration of the proper construction of a five-pointed star? Well, we have different ones, and different ones are constructed in different ways. But one thing I'll tell you before Aki speaks to this is that when you do any star, whether it's a blue star, a red star, violet star, or white star, don't see it as flat. You want to see it as like tubes, I got that right. Something about like that coming down around us. So don't see it just as a flat painted thing. It's a dimensional thing coming around you. And the other thing I would say to you is once you create it and you learn, okay, the line comes here, the line goes there. Once you learn the proper way of constructing it, once you get that down, you don't have to do it anymore. You can just go boom, and the star's there. So you bring it back whole and complete from your subconsciousness, because while you're visualizing, it's being imprinted in your subconsciousness. So once you get it straight, then just bring it back whole. It's quicker, and you don't need to reconstruct it. Aki?
Okay. As Daniel said, we have many five-pointed star exercises. But we would like to, maybe she wants to know, she wants us to demonstrate it, right? Okay. As he says, we have a star protection of Michael using a red color, red light, and also Raphael's protection using the violet light. And also we have Gabriel's protection using a sky blue light. But the basic one is done by white light. And we can also, the light, white light. We can create a five-pointed star using our hand. And also, we can visualize it above, the point above our head. And we can visualize the line is created from the point above. So we have two ways. But at the beginning, maybe we should show using our hand. Should I?
Just do it on you. Do it on you, because they have to do it on themselves. Oh, what happened? Okay.
Maybe.
Go ahead.
So, Daniel, maybe you can describe it there. We stand like this. Okay.
Yes. And the point is about 30 inches above the head where you start.
And usually we use the right hand and place it above. Imagine the right hand is above my head, okay? And the line, the white light, and visualize our body, pure white light first, and breathe deeply. And
You bring the line down to your foot, beyond the foot.
yes, left foot, including it goes beyond the floor, okay, including a whole left leg, okay.
And then you move it up in a straight line, crossways to the arm, to outside the tip of the hand.
Including a tip of the hand, right hand.
And then you bring the line straight across, about even with the thyroid, to outside the tips of the fingers on the other hand. And then you bring that back down to the foot, outside the foot.
How can I do?
You don't have.
Yes, beyond the floor.
Yeah. Then you bring it up to the top of your head again.
The light, after reaching beyond the floor, the light goes up and go back to the original. So it goes like a boom, 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 boom.
Boom. And the reason we're doing it this way is you want the whole body inside that star,
Yes.
particularly when you're using the star protection. Now, a mistake some people make is they don't do that exercise until they feel threatened. And if they feel threatened, they may start fearing things. Oh, I better do the star. But then they do the star. It doesn't help you that much because you've already got the fear inside of yourself. So the idea is to keep that star around you at all times. So like when you're walking, it's walking right there with you. You don't have to walk with your arms out. It's right there with you. And it just follows you wherever you go. Mm-hmm. And it's good to bring it back and re-energize that elemental from time to time. Mm-hmm. And it's an extremely good protection device. Yeah. And you'll also notice that when people do black magic, they turn that star upside down on somebody. So what they've done is reverse the energy of that star, and it works against to pull them downward. When we do it this way, it protects us, but it also creates an attraction to the perfect archetype, the heavenly man. So it tends to pull us up energetically, spiritually. But when someone turns it upside down on somebody, it tries to pull their energy down and cause them problems because it's down toward the earth. So it's always upright. Once you get it upright, you're protected. Just know you're protected. Nobody can, black magicians can try, but that's what's always said, there is no powerful black magician because they work in the shadows. We work in the light, and that's where the power is.
Important thing is we should not have any space. We have to confine our body and close our body completely without any space in the line of the 5-pointed star. And we should really keep it upright, not the other way. And once we create it, it goes flexible, and it comes with us flexibly. So we don't need to worry about it. We have to work like this, not like this. It comes with us flexibly always, but it's good to remember, the energized elemental which we created from our subconsciousness once we really feel like to create it again. It works a lot. And the 5-pointed star works for especially in other dimension, fourth, fifth dimension. We also have the protection of the light shield, which we are practicing right now in Patreon. But together with the light shield is good for more like a negative elementals, like personalities level, the coming toward the personality in this dimension. But the 5-pointed star is more effective when we travel the other dimension, fourth, fifth dimension. And then eventually we will combine two exercises together. But the first, maybe light shield is very effective and beneficial. And next, we will create a 5-pointed star and combine at the end. We will do this practice in Mediverse eventually.
Okay. What happened to Yakovos, the young close friend of Dasklos mentioned by Daniel in the last Q&A? I know that's not his real name, but he's the friend who got lost in World War II. What he's asking here is about a story that Marquitas wrote in his books. Now, in the Marquitas books about Daskalos, he mentions somebody called Kostas. It wasn't his real name. His real name was Kikis, and he lived in Limassol. And he was he'd been trained by Daskalos since I think he was 10 years old. And when Daskalos met him, he said that his father got mad at him one day and was spanking him. He said, "Don't spank him. This is a master." So over time, he was with Daskalos for a long time. And the other fellow was Yakovos. And the story about this guy is he was living, he was a student of Daskalos at the time of World War II. He was destined and planned to be a close student, to study with Daskalos. He goes off to World War II and he gets killed. His body gets killed. Now, this is going to sound far out, but Daskalos had tremendous, way more abilities than any of us really could guess, quite honestly. And so what Daskalos said he did, and Daskalos told me this is a true story, he pulled him back into incarnation on Cyprus so he could continue the studies with him. That's pretty strong, but it was destined. And Daskalos didn't violate the laws. He was working with the laws. He never violated the law. So this wasn't a violation just because he liked the guy and wanted to bring him back. It was important that this guy get this training, and he had been killed in World War II in Germany, I believe. So he comes back, and the boy comes up, and pretty soon he's still young, but he comes to Daskalos, and Daskalos continues the training with him. So he's asking what happened to him. The other one, Kikis, went on to do his own work, and he passed over in 2017, the spring of 2017. And but this other guy, I don't really know where he is now. I know it's just like he's ended up going off away from Daskalos. Someone had told me that he went to America and a woman spoiled him. I'll just leave it at that. But for sure, he wasn't around Daskalos at the end. I never saw him personally when I was there from 89 on. So that's that question. You want to comment?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the next question. Over the years, we've been hearing many stories about ET vehicles crashing or being shot down by a secret military group, recovering of ET technologies and bodies. My question is, if a spiritually advanced being, such as an ET, creates a material body on Earth, is it flesh and blood like ours? Can it be harmed or even killed? I'm hoping this isn't possible. Well, for sure, what we're calling ETs are those from other star systems that have traveled through the noetical to reach this place, and then they materialize into this world. They may only be in the psychonoetical counterpart of this world. They may appear in the etheric counterpart of this world, or they may appear materially in this world. So, but we have to understand, for them to do that, for them to even come across, they have to be self-realized. There's no bad alien that's going to do this. There's no way. They're too far away. Everybody's too far away from each other, so they can't really come in physical ships. I suppose they could in our solar system, but from other solar systems, they could come up and come down. So you have to be super advanced. You have to be self-realized. And when a being gets self-realized, it never falls. It can't fall anymore because it knows itself. It's just, boom, it's there. Once you reach that high level of super consciousness, and self-super conscious is added in an instant, and there's no degrees of it. So it's not like they could fall or make mistakes or anything. So what this means in terms of the question is, if the United States, and they do, have crashed ships, alien bodies, or even live aliens, it's because they willed it. It's not because they made a mistake. Oh, I hit the tree and crashed. No, they don't do that. It's not possible. So what they have is the beginning of a technology transfer. So there are craft that the United States have, and in other governments probably too. And they have even succeeded in reverse engineering them and trying to make certain ones, not the advanced ones, but the certain ones. Now, some of these ETs don't need a craft at all. They really don't need a craft, but they use it for why? Why would they use a craft? Well, it helps them with their observations in one level because they can be in the material plane and move around. But really, primarily, they're doing it for us. They're doing this to raise questions like, what is that? How does it do that? The president of Liechtenstein just said recently, or not too long ago, they clocked a craft traveling at 200,000 kilometers an hour. How could they do that? Well, now we start to think. And also these things showing up, people have seen them. I've seen them. You see them physically. I mean, you see them with your physical eyes. And it raises questions like, well, how are they doing that? Who are they? Where are we? We're not alone. That's the most important one. Most people just, I mean, it's like, 400 or 500 years ago, they thought Earth was the center of the universe. Well, now we know better. Now we think man's the only thing it is, the only life there is. It's not. It's not at all. There are 40 billion planets in our galaxy alone that could support life like us. And there's definitely 11 million. It's exactly in that sweet area that our planet Earth is. So it's just so naive and egocentric to think we're the only thing there is. Certainly humankind is the pinnacle of creation, but they're human too. That's what we got to remember. They're human too. In other words, they have passed through the human idea. Now, their bodies look different because they're on different planets with different compositions of the bodies. Our planet, we all hear 80% of our body is water. And we also hear 80% of the planet's water. That's not a coincidence. That's a law. So some beings are from other planets where they don't have as much water, so that's the percentage is not the same. And a lot of times what people think when they even see an entity, a being that they consider an ET, it's an elemental, it's an elementary that they've created that walks and talks. You can't tell the difference from the original. So they could shoot it, nothing was going to happen to the being that created it. But if they have bodies. I haven't seen them, I can't say for sure, but from the information I have, I believe they have been given bodies so that they can, we can start to understand that there is other kinds of life in different forms. Daskalos had many encounters with them, and they came to his house. And he said in their body, one group particularly, in their body, they have something like blood, but it's more like honey. And it takes 3 days or something like that to circulate, where our blood circulates every 13 minutes or whatever. Yeah. So anyway, there are beings here, but they don't ever think they can accidentally crash or they can get shot and be killed. They are giving themselves to help us wake up. I had a conversation with Dr. Edgar Mitchell, the sixth guy who walked on the moon, and he said there are ETs living in what we would look at and consider normal human bodies, walking in the halls of NASA. They're working with NASA. So there's been a great suppression of the technology transfer that's come from them, and there's also been a great denial that they even existed by governments. But now, guess what? They're starting to say, oh, the Pentagon said, oh yeah, they're really here. And everybody's starting to say it. The governments are starting to say it. Prime Minister of Israel said, yes, we're in contact with them. So definitely they're here. But don't worry about them being able to be harmed in any way.
Yes. Daniel covered most of things. The only one thing which I can say from my side is like that they are so loving being and self-realized, so they can manifest, they can create a identical as they want to, as they want us to see. So whatever we see, that body of ETs or no other form of the bodies, they can create the elemental whatever they wish us to see. So they are developed like that high.
And I'll just say one thing. The reason they can do this has to do with multiplicity. We say God is in its multiplicity, beings composing the being we call God. It's multiplicity. And self-realized people on this planet or any other planet can create multiple bodies in the self. This is in Hindu teachings a lot. And Daskalos could. But you know what Daskalos said? I've never needed to create more than 4. I mean, that's a lot. But you can control them perfectly. And if you saw any one of them, you could not say that wasn't Daskalos. So it happens, it can happen that they create the bodies out of this principle of multiplicity that we as a spirit being have, not as a personality. We don't have that. Unless you consider multiple personalities. But okay, I was raised in a tradition that emphasizes prayer, we better move quicker now,
Yes.
as a means of answering questions and confirming the truth of things. Despite my best efforts, I've never had any clear answers. Is there a specific method of asking? Is there a specific method of how to receive an answer? My efforts to contact my guardian angel have been lackluster. Sometimes it would be nice to even have assurance that someone is listening. Are my expectations of this process misguided? No, definitely not. In the beginning, we all want that. We want confirmation. We need confirmation. We need 3 things. Actually, we need to know where we're going. We need to have confirmation we're on the way. And then we need to have the experience of it itself, whether we're going on a road trip or contacting our guardian angel. So no, it's natural to want to have confirmation. Aki's done a nice video called The 3 Steps of Connecting with Your Guardian Angel. So I suggest you listen to that one because it's very good. And in the beginning, the reason we don't get clear answers is because we have an enemy, and that's your egotism. And our own egotism wants us to hear it. It doesn't want us to hear the guardian angel. So a lot of times it creates a bunch of thoughts, or it does stuff to try to interfere with receiving that answer. Believe me, it's hearing you. The guardian is hearing you and it's answering you, but not maybe right when you ask it. We have to wait. I mean, there's a number of times where I would be asking my guardian a question. I wouldn't get an answer for days. And then for some reason, it used to happen when I go to a movie and I'd be watching a movie and maybe the movie was really, it didn't catch my interest. And then I could hear it, or it'd be in the shower or driving. It just doesn't really come right. You don't ask and then you don't immediately hear it usually, sometimes, but not always. So it's just natural in the beginning to not be sure and not be able to hear it, because the guardian doesn't want us to hear it. Because if we start listening to the guardian, it's going to tell us the truth. It's going to tell us the truth and lead us to our real self. And that is the most terrifying thing to an egotism. It does not want to be contradicted. It does not want other people to tell us that the egotism is not telling you the truth. So it takes a long process, and it takes a very sincere person to be able to, or to be willing to look at how their own egotism tricks them.
Then you mentioned good things during taking a shower, driving, watching a movie, which means when we try to really listen to our guardian's voice, guardian angel's voice, we really expect too much, exciting too much, or thinking too much, or judging, or sometimes doubting, oh, is it really true voice or not? Am I hearing well or not? those are all our own egotism, all our own emotions and thoughts. So to really connect with our inner self or guardian angel, we have to get rid of all those kind of emotions and thoughts in the world of dualities as much as we can, and just hold in a pure love, because they are vibrating that level. They don't vibrate in our personalities, emotions and the thoughts level. So we have to exclude all those kind of miscellaneous thoughts and emotions, and relax completely, and try to connect with pure love, unconditional pure love. Again, because they are vibrating such high level. Okay, then try to attune with them naturally. That's why when we are expecting too much, or doubting or judging, we can't hear really the voice. But when once we encounter the emergency case, or some very relaxing, when we are relaxing completely, then it comes through naturally to our heart. Then we realize like, and then once we receive it, and if it's really true voice, we can immediately understand that, we can immediately make sense everything to our heart more than brain or head.
This next question is by Krista, and it's
I think it's 1 hour.
yeah. Let's try to move through them quickly. If you want to hang around, please hang around. If you have to go, you can listen to the recording of it. But I think we should answer them.
Yes. We have so
Okay, this is
many
by Krista. She's telling about a story of a Kurdish guy who grew up in Iran and suffered from the war in his childhood, and later he was tortured. She sent the story to me on Facebook, but I looked, Krista, and I cannot find it. So I don't know. She's asking something about he's having unintentional OBEs, out-of-body experiences, and is there danger too? How can I help him? Is there someone who can help him? Why he harms while he is in another dimension, other persons, but can't remember when he comes back? Again, I can't really speak to the story directly, but I can speak to that point. When we go out of our body, our powers are greatly increased. This is why no one should even try it until they purify their heart. Because just think, we have ill will toward other people. Some people we're jealous of. Some people we have conflict with. If when we're out of our body, our power is greatly increased, the archangels and everything, they try not to let that happen to an impure person. But sometimes they will take them out. A master will take them out of their body to show them and give them an experience. Where you're going to hear more about this guy, but some of the researchers here in the United States and in Mexico were working with a fellow named Herberto, and he was falsely accused when he was 24 and put in prison, sentenced to 25 years in prison. And the first thing they did is pulled all his fingernails out of him. And that's the least thing they did to him in terms of torture. But what he was telling me the other day is that when that happened, he completely went out of his body. And he could see himself and see them doing that. And even heard the guardian say, they're not hurting you. And he felt a detachment. And he did not feel that they were torturing him. They were torturing his body, but he wasn't his body. So that was an unwilling out-of-body experience. And the beautiful part about this guy, I can't wait to tell you the whole story because it's a beautiful story. He was in jail for 8 years before they really caught the real guy who was a top leader in the cartel, and they thought he was the top leader in the cartel in Mexico. And so they tortured the heck out of him to try to get this information, moved him around prison here and there. I mean, we're gonna share that with you, and we're part of this project with him to try to help bring this and his prison program to the prisons starting in Mexico. Because as soon as he got out, this guy had so much love. He didn't even hate those people who were pulling his fingernails out. He would ask questions and care about them. And they couldn't understand why this guy who's being hurt so badly would do this. But anyway, back to the out-of-body things. He had many out-of-body experiences when they were beating him and stuff. And it was to give him the perspective of who he really was and who he really wasn't. He's not the body. And now he knows that. So when they finally caught the real guy, they released him, of course, after all this horrific things. And the first thing he does is form a nonprofit organization, go right back into prison to help the people who are still trapped there. So we're going to share that story a bit more.
Daniel, I think it's already past 1 hour.
Yes.
1 and 20 minutes.
And
so
I said we should continue because if somebody wants to leave, they can leave. But the people who ask the question, they can come back and hear their questions in the recording.
Okay, then let's continue.
Okay. Somebody's asking about raw contact, which is a channeling thing. And they know Daskalos did not prove a channeling, but they want our opinion on the truth of this information. Well, I looked at the website just now, and I was aware of it, but I really haven't gone into it. But what I will tell you is that when people channel, the dangerous part is they don't really know the source of the information, right? And so the energy is unverified, but it tells them who they are. And a lot of times it's false. There's so much trickery when people try to psychically attune or get guidance and stuff. We have to learn how to do it, but we have to learn how to separate the truth from the illusions, because we can be spoken illusions and we don't have any way to verify it. And we might be in danger of accepting something false as true. But I will tell you, when Daskalos, or I've had experience or other valid experiences with non-physical messengers, you don't go into thing and start talking in a different voice. You don't get weird. This is raw. It's just like having a conversation with everybody. It's just normal. It's natural. There's no weird thing about it. It's very common. When you hear Daskalos, you just hear Daskalos, just like you heard him in the physical plane. So I have a lot of caution when believing anything from a channeler who has to put themselves in a trance, because we don't want to go in a trance. When you go in a trance, you let go of the personality. You let go and you go into this trance and you're not in control. In our system, it's about alertness. We have to be so alert to everything. If we stay alert, we can hear messages. We don't have to go into a trance to hear messages. But we have to be good researchers and know well the practice of introspection and observation, so we can be able to determine if that thing is just telling us what we want to hear or not. I mean, a lot of times these things come, they know exactly what you want to hear. They know exactly what you believe, these non-physical voices. And so they tell you exactly what you want to hear. And you go, oh, I felt that. This is a real connection. That's the most common trick of them. And thousands and thousands of people just fall on that one.
Whole point here is how clean. Think about us like a vessel or conduit. How clean, and the most important thing is how clean this conduit or vessel is. So most of the channeling, what we call channeling things, it all depends on the channeler, what we call channelers, transparency. The more they cleanse it, the more the pure guidance comes through. But it all depends on their kind of level of pureness of their vessels. So it has many levels, of the connecting. That's why in this teaching system, we don't suggest or recommend or try to do channeling things. More than that, we put more and more focus to cleanse our egotism through introspection, observations, many exercises. Then naturally, the more we being cleansed, naturally we, without wishing or expecting anything, naturally it comes.
one other thing I'll say is it's a very important warning to those who maybe want to be a medium, because it's worse for mediums. And when they hear voices and they haven't verified them, or there's no confirmation this is a good one or a bad one, they may be hearing from beings, people who've passed over on the lower psychical levels, who really like to connect with Earth and get the vibrations of Earth. They don't want to go up. They want to feel the vibrations of Earth. So they'll come into a medium and say some things, do some things. But most of the time it's an entity, which is not a being. And what it does, it's a living existence, let's call it that way. And it, like I said, knows what you're thinking. If somebody comes to you, it knows what they're thinking. So it gives you information to tell them, and it may misguide them. It may tell them some truth. A lot of times they tell you a lot of truth because they want you to believe in them, because they are really actually feeding on you. You don't realize it. But here's the problem. These ones, the entities I'm talking about, they give you something. And when they give you something, they expect something from you. They may go 10, 20 years before they come to take it. And whatever they've given you, they could take 50 times more back from you. And a lot of times people become unbalanced. A lot of times they could become extremely thin because these entities are withdrawing energy from them. They gave them something, now they're taking something back from you. So it's a very, very, that whole thing is so prone to trickery. It's just amazing how much trickery goes on in the name of people. There's some comment, oh, this is the Christ talking. Oh, Christ is talking. Christ is saying this and that. And I know of one person who could really see clairvoyantly. And when they saw clairvoyantly, it was like an impish spirit, a little entity that was pretending. It was getting enjoyment off of tricking people. And so it would claim it was the Christ. Mm. So just be very, very careful. And always, even if it is Christ, challenge it. Say, or if it's Mother Mary comes and tells you, in the name of Christ, is this true? You always call it, challenge it. Now, the true ones, they don't mind you challenge it. They're happy to see you challenge it, because that means you realize there are very severe dangers on this path. Mm. So they will never be offended by your challenging, even the real ones. Mm. So, and the other ones will try to fake it, but just keep mentioning the name of Jesus Christ and see what happens to the vibration.
Rather than aiming to expect to gain the psychical abilities things for ourselves, when we think of someone, like, for example, healing or try to help, when we really sincerely wish to help someone, this vibration is really unconditional, something like the pure love towards something. This vibrates high. Then, everything is a frequency and vibration. So the higher energy or the beings try to help you. But when we put more focus on our own development or own ambition or development, psychonoetical development, which means which is connecting to our own personal desire things. It doesn't vibrate very high. So the things come to, again, everything is vibration, frequency. So we invoke these kind of vibration. So whatever you try to connect, just check yourself, your own vibration first, and cleanse as much as you can with introspection, observation, sincere attitude, motivation. Then we can connect the higher vibration.
Okay, 2 more questions. Are there telltale signs that we are close to conscious exomatosis, conscious out-of-body experience? Yeah. One that happened for me when I was really young is I would start to see the material world start to vibrate. and disappear. And the psychical world, or the etheric world first, would come through, and it would start to become more prominent in my vision. Now I've got my eyes open on this world. So it would start to pixelate and start to dissolve. And it didn't really dissolve. It's just that this other image came through. You're seeing through it, and you start to coming out of your body, because you have to go through the etheric double first. Another thing is laying in bed. One of the things that used to happen to me, well, maybe not laying in bed, but it happened to me in bed a lot. I felt like there was a magnet, a huge magnet, and it was trying to pull me out either from one of the chakras, but it would be like a magnetic pull that was pulling me out. That was one of them. I think everybody maybe has their own different experiences of this, the way it goes. Maybe Aki, you could tell some of yours.
But are you answering this question? Okay. I see. Which one? Please continue. Which one? Which question are we?
This one. What are signs they're come out of, they're close to unconscious exomatosis?
Okay, please.
I did.
Sorry, I was focusing on the next question. So
Do you have something to
maybe
say?
after that, then probably.
The next question?
Yes.
Okay, the last question is, if we are having a harder time with doubt sometime, is it best to keep working with the breathing of light and exhaling of shadow and not put up the shield until we feel that has passed? This question is for Aki, by the way. Perhaps to come back to it later? Also, as I followed this, I was struggling with stubborn shadows, but I keep going. When we got to the affirmation part, the light expanded greatly. Should it trust that expansion was working to ease the shadows and not worry about them having been trapped in there? Does this make any sense at all? That's your question.
Yes, please answer first.
Doubt's one thing, fear is another. I mean, fear really grips you. Doubt, you're not certain about things. So in those cases, the doubt, I would definitely say keep on insisting. This is what Dasko would tell us all the time. Keep on insisting that it comes out the way we're trying. Don't let doubt dissolve it or make it unstated. Just forget, no, I want it this way. He just said insist. So during these doubting times, definitely insist. Now, if you're terrified and filled with fear and you try to do it, like I said before, it kind of gets trapped inside the shield you're making. So that's the big difference.
Yes. If you feel good, to cleanse your body first by inhaling and exhaling without creating a light shield. If you feel good, please do it as much as you want. But the whole point here is whatever we create, no one has, there's no one who has no shadow. We all have a shadow, and it's so difficult to take all of them. But just like when we work on the healing, healing exercise for someone, we visualize the part or any illness is completely recovered. We don't see the things are injured or the body is sick. We never visualize. Instead, we visualize perfect image, completely recovered image, healthy image. Likewise, for the light shield exercise, back to this question, as Daniel says, don't invite the kind of, I might have a shadow. Don't focus on it. Rather than that, try your best to create the image of perfectly cleansed your body or shell. This is the more important part. So just try to focus on the perfect image of which you are guided through the meditation, even though we might have a shadow in us still, try not to see it. Put your all 100% focus to create a perfect image. And at the end of the exercise, program, give the affirmation to elemental which we create. This is the key point.
Good.
We have another question from
You do?
Daniel. Yes.
I don't have it.
Someone asked.
Oh, I missed it.
Yes. Could you?
Okay. He's thanking for the meditation, but I'm not sure which meditation he's talking about. But he's asking, could this shield help while healing people? In every system, there are techniques for protection and cleaning. Could this meditation be a protection for a healer? Well, I'm not sure which meditation you're speaking about, but definitely, if it's a shield meditation, light shield is definitely a protection for a healer. Now, with a healer, there are different grades of healers. There's a psychotherapist is a healer. He's trying to do healing. And then there's a real spiritual healer who does it by authority, not by a technique. In the beginning, you do it by techniques. Daskalos gives us these visualizations and how to do them on people and do them. And one of the dangers at that level, at the beginning level, is to pick up something from somebody else. Now, an advanced healer, a spiritual healer, does pick up. He's picking up the karma of that person's illness. But at the same time, Christ is picking up 90% of that he picked up, and then he knows how. He knows how to dissolve that thing he picked up, the karma he picked up. So it's a big deal to him. And he only picks up a little bit compared to the overall thing because Christ is carrying the great load for everybody. And even especially for the healer. I mean, he's doing it for the healer too. So there's not so much there, but still in the beginning, you need to know how to protect yourself. And by protect thyself, it means don't fear something. It just keep your energy strong and full of light. And so these exercises, the shield of light, is exactly how to do that. But just energizing your etheric double does it too. And always when you start this, say prayer. The prayer protects you as well.
Yes. When we work on healing exercise, healing work, please cleanse your body first completely. Please focus on cleanse. And after healing, please cleanse yourself too. In each case, please try to cleanse yourself. And yes, light shield really works for the healing work. So before you work on the healing, please make it because in this exercise, we have to cleanse our body and expand the aura of the radiation like this big, like this size. So it's ideal. And furthermore, we can create a light shield for other people too, because this is kind of based on our love and care for other people. So we can also create it to help other people silently.
Okay, well, thank you for your good questions.
Yes.
All these questions, whatever question we get asked, they're all important because they all point to some aspect of the teaching we can elaborate on. It's a great way to learn, even hearing other people's questions, of course. It's a great way to learn about the teachings rather than a rote book kind of format. It's more natural, and everything we're doing, there's nothing we're doing that doesn't relate to the teachings, or say the teachings relate to that.
We are really we are really appreciating this opportunity. I have one favorite Daskalos's word, which is he said, even small bread, when we share something, we don't need to be a millionaire. Even small bread, we can share, into half. We can share and enjoy together. For me, this opportunity is something like share something which we can do, we can provide, and we can share with the people who has questions. So we really appreciate all your questions. Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming. We'll see you next month. Yes.